What's going on, y'all? Seatbelt back, and today, um, we want to talk about Brandon Ingram. I think his situation he's in right now it's really weird. It's a really interesting thing that's happening because pretty much everyone would have agreed like a month ago, like as soon as the season ended until about now. Like nobody really thought that Brandon Ingram was going to be on the Pelicans going into next year because we had all heard the discussions of okay, it's looking like they're gonna have to choose between Brandon Ingram and Zion, and they're gonna choose Zion, and it makes sense for them. It makes sense for the Pelicans because they have guys like Herb Jones and Trey Murphy who are evolving into the type of player to where they can replace what Brandon Ingram's doing and not get paid as much as he would. So, what's going on with him right now? It's really weird. It's really weird because whenever the whole DeJounte Murray trade went down, I feel like most people thought that Brandon Ingram was going to be involved in that. Like that would have made sense. You get Trey Young, another guy who's going to be his partner, his bucket getter partner. Like they're going to just cook together. But no, it was the only person that was traded, and the only people that were traded in that were John. It was DeJounte Murray for Dyson Daniels and Larry Nance, and there's like a pick or something involved, I think. And that's interesting. There's also more talk about how other teams don't really want Brandon Ingram either. Because the two main teams that were being talked about with Brandon Ingram, Hawks and Kings. Obviously, the Hawks didn't want him because if they did, he would have been involved in that trade, right? And the Kings went out and got DeMar DeRozan, right? So where does that leave us with Brandon Ingram? What teams could he go to? I'm not sure. I'm really not. Another team that was getting talked about was the Knicks, and I think the Knicks are past that with the whole Mikal Bridges thing. It wouldn't make sense really for him to go to a rebuilding team, so it has to be more of a contender or a team that's trying to get into the playoffs. I mean, maybe maybe OKC would try and do something. Um, maybe the Rockets. Maybe the Rockets. I think if the Rockets were to do something, I don't think they will, but they definitely have the pieces if they were to decide they wanted him and try and speed up their timeline a little bit. That would have to be something like Jalen Green and maybe like Tari Eason, something like that. I'm not really sure. Um, who else? I don't even know who else would try and go for him. I guess because like the teams like the Clippers and the 76ers, the Celtics, like those teams don't have the ability to. The Bucks, I don't know what the Bucks would trade for him. And I feel like if the Bucks wanted him, they would have been trying to do that because they haven't done anything else. So it's just a really, really weird situation. And another situation that I think is very similar is the Lauri Markkanen with the Jazz. There was so much talk about where he's going to go, what's going to happen with the Lauri Markkanen, and it seems like nothing's going to happen at this rate. Like there's still a little bit of talk going on with like about him maybe going with the Warriors, but realistically, I don't know if the Warriors are how willing they would be to do that. I think the fit would be great because Lauri Markkanen is an all star caliber guy, and he would fit immediately into their system really well. He's a great shooter, and he's a guy that moves a lot off the ball, which is a big part of their system. Like they don't want guys who are just going to sit there and stand in the corner. No, they want guys that are moving it all the time, setting screens, coming off screens, constantly moving. And Lauri Markkanen already does that. So that's an option. Maybe the Heat. I'm just trying to think of teams that I could see pursuing this. I mean, I don't. Yeah, maybe the Mavericks. try and get him. Yeah, there's not for those two guys. There's not, I don't see a whole lot of options left for them. Like this is kind of the part of free agency or the off season where things are starting to get set in stone. Like teams are like, for the most part, the way that teams are now is the way that they're going to go in their training camp, start the season, stuff like that. It's not very often that we see a big trade happening. But the thing about the Brandon Ingram situation is they almost have to. Like they don't have a center. They don't have a starting center on their team, and I like it makes sense in their head. Like their plan is like, okay, we're bringing Dejounte Murray, and then we're gonna trade Brandon Ingram to get us a big. And I don't know how likely that is anymore. I mean, I don't see it happening, but the money's relatively the same. I think like with Nick Claxton, maybe Brandon Ingram's gonna go to Brooklyn and for Nick Claxton or something like that. I don't see that happening. I'm just trying to think of centers that can get traded, y'all, and I don't see it. Like this is what I'm saying. Like there's not a lot of openings or options that they still have at this point. Like it's a hard situation for these teams. It's not as big of a deal with Lauri Markkinen because I think the Jazz, they're obviously not going to be great. They're going to be mediocre, probably a little bit below average like they have been the last couple of years. And while I'm sure they're not terribly upset with that, it's almost like he's slowing them down because he makes the team too good. But there's also like the thought like, okay, but we're still gonna be in the lottery with him more than likely. So how bad is it? And Danny Ainge is the type of guy. He's not gonna do an okay trade. He's not gonna do a trade that's like a win-win. No, Danny Ainge is going to win the trade. So it just makes it interesting. There's so many thoughts in my head that I just don't know how to speak about because it all comes back to what can they do at this point in the offseason. There's not much. And I feel like I'm talking in circles and circles, so I'm just gonna cut it off here. If you watch this video, thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. As always, my Twitter and podcast link down in the description, and join the conversation. Peace.